Hello my chemical consumers and chemical enjoyers. Dispatch finished a little over a month ago now, and I have to say, I had an absolute blast playing this. I mean, it was by far the most fun I've had with a story game in a long while. And it didn't just itch that telltale craving, it skinned it and covered it in salt. I mean, the characters goated, the music slapped, the story had me leaning back and curling my toes, and the gameplay, oh the gameplay, it was nearly non-existent. Alright, so don't get me wrong, like I said, I love this game, please don't burn my house down, but the gameplay is hard to even consider gameplay at times. So for the 3 people watching this that haven't actually played Dispatch, the gameplay is pretty much as follows. You, playing as a retired meth cook, are tasked with dispatching shitty superheroes to missions. To do this successfully, you need to take into account each hero's skills and match them to the correct job. If done correctly, you're rewarded with XP to increase said skills of your heroes, which, as a concept, sounds pretty solid. And in all honesty, it is. I actually found myself really enjoying this main gameplay loop. But what happens if something is done incorrectly? Well, nothing happens. Yeah, you heard that right. You can fuck up every single mission or just outright not even interact with the keyboard and the game will just continue to play itself as if nothing wrong happened. And yes, I know this does affect the endings, however the endings are a problem in of themselves, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. So for the time being, let's cover the other gameplay, the hacking. I hate it. And yes, I'm bad at it, go fuck yourself, but that's not the reason I hate it. I hate it because despite it feeling like an intense life or death situation, at most, messing it up changes a piece of dialogue and a couple of scenes. And I think the greatest example of this is probably in episode 6, when you have to complete a whole bunch of hacking sequences in order for Invisigal to steal the Astral Pulse. And no matter what you do, and how intense this all seems, it ends the exact same way, no matter what, but with minor scene changes. But wait, because we haven't even talked about the QuickTime events. So what's the problem with these, I hear you ask? Well, let me explain. Nothing happens. Nothing fucking happens. In fact, so little happens that you can just straight up choose to not even have them in the game. So what does all the gameplay have in common? Well, that would be that it all matters very, very little, despite it kind of being the main meat of the game, which is where I believe the problem with this game lies. That being that Dispatch is a game where you are constantly met with choices and options that are all an illusion. Do you choose Phenomenon or Waterboy? Are you a blonde glazer or an Invisiguna? Who do you send to put out the fire, the guy who started it or a sentient lump of asphalt? All choices that seem important but hardly affect the actual story in any way outside of who you end up in a relationship with. And don't get me wrong here, I do like these segments apart from the hacking. In fact, as I said earlier, I found the dispatching especially fun and pretty unique, but it does feel super dulled down by the fact that it doesn't really change much if I pass or fail these segments apart from minor changes to the endings. So without further ado, let's get to the worst part of this game, the endings. So it goes without saying here, major spoilers ahead. So yes, there are technically multiple endings, but in my eyes, the endings are so fucking similar that you can hardly call them different endings, with them just kind of boiling down to you either getting with Blonde Blazer or Gunabay, and with you either killing Shroud or sparing him. And then at the end, you all get together like one big happy family and take a picture. But there is a bad ending for those who fucked up all the dispatching segments and didn't help Invisigal. So what is the bad ending? What is the ultimate punishment for failing your team? Invisigal kills Shroud and dips. Yeah, you heard that right. The bad ending ends with the main bad guy dying and Invisigal leaves. She doesn't try and attack us for not helping her. She doesn't kill another beloved character. She just kill steals and logs off the server. And that's the punishment you get for fucking everything up. That's the bad ending. Keep in mind, some of the people who worked on this game worked on the original Walking Dead game. The same people who made this ending consider this a bad ending. Are you pissing on my shoes right now. And all this leads me back to the main problem with this game. That being, for such a well-written game, it's kind of ruined by falling into that painful telltale category where all choices are just illusions, with everything just kind of leading to the same outcome. And don't get me wrong here, I'm not expecting a Detroit Become Human level of choice making from an indie developer with a limited budget, but from a game that literally says on its Steam page, choices matter, I would expect something slightly more in depth than what we got, because at times it feels more like I'm watching a show than playing an actual game that I've paid £30 for. However, before you finish writing my full home address in the comments for bashing your favourite Guna game, allow me to speak. While I still believe it definitely has its problems, it still is an objectively good game, and I had an absolute blast experiencing it. But what I noticed while doing some research for this video is that when people talk about Dispatch, it's either people glazing the game or shitting on the game so hard you would think it was EA slop. And both sides have me kind of scratching my head a bit, as in no way is this even close to a bad game. It's really good, if not a great game, but fuck me, we need to stop pretending that this game is the second coming of Christ. It very much has its issues, and that's not a bad thing, but blindly accepting the issues and attacking anyone with a different opinion is. This game is great, but unfortunately, it does just kind of fall flat of being anywhere close to a masterpiece due to its complete lack of caring about player decisions. But if, or when, should I say, considering the estimated sales of this game, they do decide to make a second season, I really hope to see that they've actually looked at some of the criticism for this game and make choices feel more impactful, instead of being stuck in a telltale cycle where they never take any risks. Oh, and also make sure not to break any labor laws. Anyway, to conclude this little rant, go check out Dispatch. If you're one of the 3 people who haven't, it's genuinely one of the most passionate games I've ever had the pleasure of playing, with some genuinely stellar voice acting performances and some of the best animation I've ever seen in gaming. And ad hoc, if you are somehow seeing this, I have just one thing to say. Please let us romance Sonar in the second game. Come on, I really don't feel like I'm asking for much here. I think it's a fair ask. It's a fair request. We were this close. If you have enjoyed, then be sure to like, drop a comment, rate 5 stars, tip, subscribe, and leave a review. I've been Yummy Chemicals, and thanks for watching.